I don't have one question for you. I have two questions for you. How would you like to first make money in your sleep? Second, how would you like to double that money? In this episode, we're going to cover how you can do that after this short break. Hi, welcome to the Dan Can Show. I'm Dan Can, and this is the show where we learn as leaders, as husbands, fathers, business leaders, businessmen and women in our community, how to provide, protect, and promote. We also learn how to invest in ourselves and others, and we also learn how to invest in real estate. That's what this show is about, is how to invest in others and invest in ourselves and invest in real estate. I started the show talking about what? How to make money in your sleep. I really enjoy making money in my sleep. I also love it when my money doubles. And at the end of this episode, I will give you a simple equation that can help you do that. Before we do that, I also want to remind us that we are in a three-part series, and that series, we're in number two. And if you didn't listen to number one, I would encourage you to go back to that. I believe that the Bible is full of principles that can help us in life, our spirit and business, our community, and our families. And so, what we talked about last week was trust. If you want to be able to make money in your sleep, people have to trust you. And how do you build trust? I'm going to pop on my glasses here because I'm close to 50, not quite there yet. But I'm going to read this, and you'll find this in Proverbs 22, verse 1. A good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. A good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. Now, I realize that I just talked about, hey, you got to have character in order to make riches. And this says you better focus on your name, your character. And then it actually says almost what's the exact opposite in regards to riches, desiring riches over that. The compare and contrast is this: if you focus on yourself, you focus on your character, you let your yes be yes and your no, no, people will trust you. And if people trust you, you have an opportunity to educate them. I'm a firm believer in educational sales. And what I mean by that is I love telling people about opportunities, but not every opportunity is for every person. And it took me a really long time in the marketplace to get that down. I got to be honest with you, it took decades for me to get that down to truly understand the blessing of that. The blessing that when I'm talking to the right person and I'm giving them education and it resonates with them and they want to participate with me, that is a wonderful opportunity. But it's also a fantastic opportunity when someone really listens to what I say in regards to an investment opportunity and it's just not for them. I feel such peace knowing that I did a good job of presenting facts. I believe they did a great job listening, and the opportunity just wasn't for them. Trust in your name and your character is paramount to helping people invest with you. Like I said at the beginning of this intro, right? We invest in ourselves, we invest in others, and we invest in real estate. This show is about investment, and investment inherently has risk. It has risk. And life is risky if you think about that. The decisions that you make are risky. There is no quote unquote safe occupation or job, as we're seeing now in our current political environment here in the United States. People that have been in government opportunities, working for the government for a really long time, for the longest time, that was viewed as safe. We're making cuts. That's not as safe as it used to be. The real estate market is starting to slow down. That's not as safe as it used to be. Now, historically, that is true in regards to government jobs, and historically, it is true in regards to real estate. So, I am going to share with you some trust that I broke with my neighbor in the next section. But I am going to tell you there is something good that comes out of this broken trust. And then at the end, I'll share with you that valuable information on how you can not only make money in your sleep, but double your money after a word from our sponsors.
One accident can change everything. Are you covered? At DanCan Insurance Agency in Spokane, we protect what matters most: your family, your car, your peace of mind. Get a free quote in under 60 seconds. DanCan, because you can count on us. DanCan Insurance Agency specializes in auto, home, motorcycles, and life insurance. Call us today at 509 328 1422.
Hi, welcome back. Okay, so as many of you have been listening to the show, I grew up rather poor, and a life goal of mine when I was growing up is my good friend Ben, my best friend growing up, amazing guy, amazing family. I lived with them actually for a short summer while I was working construction and going to football camp and stuff like that. But one of the things I loved about Ben's house is they had an amazing view of the Olympic Mountains. I grew up on the west side of Washington State, and man, it was just gorgeous. And I remember looking out at these mountains in this view, and I thought to myself, man, one day I want to have a view. And that definitely wasn't in the cards, but I was a dreamer and I was big enough to believe it. Long story short, this area that we lived in Spokane, there was this ridge saw on a Horizon Avenue there, and my wife heard about a house that was potentially going to go for sale. Now, I'd been walking that neighborhood for over 4 years, and not a single house had gone for sale. However, my wife was working on a board for a private community pool that we're part of and private pool community. And someone had told her that Dave was going to sell his house. I looked at Lisa and I said, "Hey, give me Dave's phone number." I got Dave's phone number, never met Dave before. 20 minutes later, we're inside Dave's house. True story. I'm a sales guy, right? So we're in his house. Beautiful view, unbelievable view. The house, not so much. Dave had designed and built the house in 1979, and he hadn't touched it since. And so it was what I call a dog. The house was a dog. However, the view was amazing. We went ahead and purchased the house. I'll get into that story as another day. But this is about character and trust. We began to remodel the home, and just like anything, it took longer and it cost more and all this other great stuff. We had this amazing neighbor named Sue. Sue was fantastic. She would bring us cookies, homemade cookies, all this great stuff. Sue was well over 82, 84 years old. She was a widow. She just took immaculate care of her lawn. She also had this unbelievable tree that was in her property that was obstructing a decent part of our view. However, that's Sue's tree. And I didn't say anything about it, but still had an amazing view. One day I was talking to Sue and I had said, I was like, man, she was talking about how beautiful the views were. And I said, yeah, they are. I said, man, but that tree, it just blocks so much of the city in your property, on your property. And she said, I hate that tree. And I said, excuse me? And she goes, I can't stand that tree. It blocks my view too. And as you guys know, I flip property. I have a construction company. I was like, I could cut that tree down for you if you want to improve your view. And obviously, selfishly for me, I was thinking improve my view. And she said, really? And yes. And then I said this, I will cut the tree down and I will cut it up and haul it out. You got to remember that part of the story. Sue's eyes lit up. She's 85 years old. She's not cutting down a tree. And we shook hands on it basically. So my crew came, cut down the tree. However, that day they weren't able to cut it up. Now, something I neglected to say is that it's on a hill. So the tree was growing up, it's on a massive hill, and tree falls. We take care of it. I know in the back of my heart, mind, and in my soul that I made a promise to Sue that I was going to take the tree off the hill, cut it up, take it off the hill. I didn't do that. I got caught up in work. I got caught up in life. However, and you might be able to relate to this. However, every time I talked to Sue, it was in the back of my mind that I said that I was going to bring that tree up. Sue is a woman of grace and mercy, and she didn't bring it up for almost 8 months. However, every time I was talking to her, I knew about this tree. Remember, character counts. My character wasn't doing very good. So about the eighth month, I'm talking to Sue. And she probably gave us some cookies again or something, which makes it even worse, right? And she said, "Hey, Dan, you had mentioned that when you cut down the tree that you were going to haul it out." Man, I'm telling you, there's nothing like hearing an 85-year-old woman call you to the mat on your character. And I said, "Sue, I am so sorry. I owe you an apology. I did say that I was going to take that tree out, and I didn't. I apologize. It'll be done by the end of the week." Now, this is where the beauty of character shows up. She forgave me, which was awesome. So I call my head foreman and I tell him the story, and he starts laughing. He goes, "I get it, Dan. I will go. I will cut it out, the branches, take it out." He called one of his buddies that makes homemade furniture. So next thing you know, I got five guys working on Sue's tree. Two of these guys, they work together and they make homemade furniture. And this wood was the kind of wood that they were really looking for. It was awesome to watch these craftsmen chop up the tree, and then they planed it, I think that's the term, on the hill, and they were gonna make custom tables and chairs with this. Now, so what was a problem for my character became a blessing for them, and they were able to use it. Now, think about all the great things that happened here when I finally said yes to character. First of all, Sue's view was beautiful, better. My view was beautiful and better. Andrew got to help me serve me. Andrew's friends who make furniture got to take that wood and make beautiful furniture out of it. And they were so excited to get this wood for free. And I was so excited to get this bad situation taken care of. And so that's what happens when we have amazing character is we get to bless others by our decisions. Now, obviously, I had that 8 months of, I'm going to use the word turmoil, when really I just needed to be a man of action, break passivity, and get it done. I didn't. I needed someone to give me a nudge. That was Sue. And then through that, all those blessings happened. That's the story about how good character and a wonderful woman named Sue and some cookies can help you get better. After this short break, I'm going to share with you how you can make money in your sleep and how you can double that money after a word from our sponsor.
Hate doing your books? Let Busy Bee handle the buzz. Based in Spokane, we simplify your numbers so you can focus on growing your biz. Call us today at 541-733-5578 and take bookkeeping off your to-do list forever.
Hi, welcome back. So we've talked about Sue, my neighbor. We talked about real estate. We talked about custom furniture. But this show's about investing in yourself, others, and real estate. So here it is. If you have character, people are going to trust you with capital and opportunities. And I'm probably going to say that every time we get together. In addition to that, with my fund, Wave Capital, I'm the president of, we give 10% double digit returns, simple interest. That's a really healthy return. Is it the most amazing return in the whole wide world? No. Is it the worst return in the whole wide world? No. But 10% is a good solid number. When people invest with me, my investors, sometimes what I hear from them is not only do they like the double digit return, they really enjoy my passion for real estate and they enjoy the stories that come with investing with real estate. And that's what's so fun is coming in these opportunities. Life's a journey. I believe that. And so when you invest with me, you get double digit returns. The average contribution that we get is 120,000 from our investments, from our investors. 10% of 120 is $1,000. Now, we take that money and we go find real estate that we can buy at a discount. We look for distressed owners and distressed properties. Okay. And now here's the equation, and this blew my mind when I learned this. In any given market in the real estate, in any given area, 6 to 10% of houses and or investors or owners of the property are in distress. And distress doesn't just mean they can't pay their mortgage. Distress means they need to sell quickly because of a job opportunity. They need to sell quickly because of another investment opportunity. They need to sell quickly because they inherited the property and they live 600 miles away. There's so many different fields, if you will, of distress. Now, I can go to that person who owns the property and I can say, "Hey, I can actually buy this from you and I can buy it and I can close if title is clean or clear in 4 days, 2 days. We've done a loan in 2 days. And so, why that's important is because that helps that person get out of distress. And then what I do is I fix that property and then I sell it for a profit. The margin of safety for our investors is I typically buy at 50, 60, sometimes 70% of value. So that margin of safety is that 30 to 50% between the purchase price and then also this ARV, which is an acronym for after repair value, the after repair value, or for simple terms, list value. So oftentimes we're like, how can you give 10% double digit returns? Listen to what I just said. I'm buying something at 50% discount. That's how I could do it. And that's why it works. And the great thing about Wave Capital working with me, I've been in real estate since 2008 in some form or fashion. In every real estate transaction I've ever done, my investor has always gotten their original capital back and their earned interest. We're batting 1,000% here because of the very thing we're talking about, character. It matters to me to make sure that my investors are made whole. Now, have I lost money? Oh, you better believe it. I lost $2,500 and I've lost $50,000 on a flip. I have, but not my investors, because my investors trust me. The second promise that I made at the beginning of this podcast is how I can double your money. Now, here's the beautiful thing about compound interest. So, Albert Einstein thought it was amazing. I think it's amazing. I agree with him. If you give me $120,000, allocate that money with me, and I give you 10% simple interest. If you put that 10%, that $1,000 back into the fund and you don't take any distributions, okay, you just put it back into the fund, your money will double in less than 7.5 years. That's the beauty of compound interest. So let's recap. You like Dan Can. You believe you can trust him. You believe I can go find these deals. You believe my construction company can go ahead and make that house pretty as a brand new penny. You believe you're going to make it whole. You invest with me. You give me $120,000. You take that thousand, you put it back into the fund, into the contract every month. In I think it's 7.5 years, 7.4 years, you would not only have 120, you would actually have $240,000 earned completely passive. You would just have to look at the text for me that I sent about all the stories and all the fun things I'm doing in real estate. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a fantastic opportunity, which is why I'm so excited that you're still listening to this podcast. So that's how you make money in your sleep. And that's how you can double your money with Dan Can. After a word from our sponsor, I'm going to bring it all back together just for you.
Tired of missing real estate deals because you were waiting for the bank to approve your funding? At Wave Capital Investing, we get you funded fast with flexible terms and a streamlined process. No red tape, no stress. Apply today at wavecapitallending.com and ride the wave to your next successful real estate investment.
On this show, the Dan Can Show, we learn how to provide, protect, and promote. We learn how to invest in ourselves, others, in real estate. That's what this show is about. I talked about character. I talked about investing with DanCan.com. How fun is that? Check it out. You can go ahead and put an email in there, get the webinar. It's a longer, detailed plan in regards to the home and in regards to the funds. Character counts. And we talked about that verse in Proverbs about desire character. The great thing about that verse is it says desire character, invest in that, go for that. And don't worry about riches, gold and silver. However, if you have great character, gold and silver will follow. It's not the other way around. You don't go for gold and silver and then get character. No, you get character and then you go and get the gold and silver. I told the story about Sue because I want you to know, first of all, I'm not perfect. You probably picked up on that. It took Sue's nudge of, hey, you made me a promise. And that nudge forced me to be a man of action. And because of that, Andrew was able to help serve me and Sue. But then also, don't forget the story about the craftsmen. They were blessed. They got to make beautiful furniture, which I believe is going to really bless some family in their home one day and probably already has. The beauty of compound interest is that it works for you on the positive side. Now, it can also work for you on the negative side. That's called debt. However, on the positive side, it can do some wonderful things. If you are interested in hearing more about my story, if you're interested in hearing more about Wave Capital, feel free to visit investwithdancan.com. I can get your phone number and your email. I'd love to have a conversation with you. My real estate investors and I, we're going to flip 40 to 65 homes this year. That's a lot of homes. That's a lot of opportunities for our investors. We produce a fantastic product for the community. So, really, some amazing things happen when you invest with Wave Capital. You better your investments, you make money in your sleep. You better the community because we take these houses that are often the worst houses in the neighborhood and we make them beautiful. Every time we flip a house, we inject anywhere from 60 to $140,000 of new capital in its community just in that one house. Now I have 5 houses going right now myself as an investor. So that's over $500,000 that is getting invested in the zip codes at 99205, 99207. That brings me a lot of joy. So think about this. I'm investing in myself by reading mentors. I'm investing in others by my team, people that work for me in the title company, insurance, all of those great things, Home Depot, Lowe's, all those things. And then also, I'm investing in real estate in the sense of I'm making the houses better, bringing up the value of other houses, and we are making a better community in those neighborhoods, which is why I'm so passionate about this. I want to thank you so much for your time. Next week, we will cover the final step in regards to how you can focus on your character to help invest in yourself, invest in others, and invest in real estate. And remember, Dan Can listeners, love well and do good.